to swear in our newly elected board member, Ms. Norma Alcala, and also to celebrate the reappointment or reelection of Sarah Kirby Gonzalez. And we'll start alphabetically with Norma Alcala. If you'd like to come forward, we will do the commencement. To help us this evening with this exercise is the retired Supreme Court Justice Cruz Reynoso. Mr. Reynoso, please come forward. Thank you.
Please repeat after me. I, Norma Alcala,
I, Norma Alcala,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support and defend
the
Constitution of the United States
Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
And now conducting the honors for Ms. Sarah Kirby Gonzalez is her father, the Honorable Dr. William Kirby. He's done this before. Welcome.
Just not back to follow. Honor to meet you, sir.
They did all the campaigning with me, so it only takes three.
Please raise your right hand. I, Sarah Kirby Gonzalez, do solemnly swear
I, Sarah Kirby Gonzalez, do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
Dad.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance.
To the Constitution of the United States.
To the Constitution of the United States.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
And the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
Without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion.
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Well, at this time, I'm pleased to report that we do not have any enemies in the building, foreign or domestic, and as such, we will enjoy a brief reception to congratulate our new inductees, and again, appreciate very much that our family and friends are here to celebrate this very special occasion with us. So please, help yourself to some refreshments. We'll adjourn for about 15-20 minutes. Thank you. For December 11, 2014, I'd like to invite those of you that are staying to grab a seat, and those that are leaving, thank you again for coming and sharing in our celebration. At this time, we will embark on the reorganization portion of the meeting, and this is rather structured or scripted, but we'll go through a number of exercises to determine our president for the remainder of 2014 and for the 2015 year. And then from that point, I'll turn the meeting over to the newly elected president, who will conduct the rest of the process of selecting the vice president, et cetera. The various positions were identified in the agenda under roll call, and I will report at this point that all 5 board members are present. So at this time, we'll start with the election of our president, and I will call for a nomination. Is there a nomination for president?
I'd like to nominate Alicia Cruz for president.
I second that.
We have a nomination, and I hear a second. Yes. That was nomination by Ms. Mary Leland and second by Norma Alcala. Is that correct? There was a race to the tape on that, I'm not sure.
Sorry.
Norma?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So we have a nomination and a second. I'll call for a vote. All in favor of a... Oh, excuse me, before I do that, are there any other... wait, let me check my notes. I'm sorry. Are there any second nominations? Okay. Hearing none. We'll call for a vote. All in favor of Alicia Cruz for president, say aye.
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 All opposed? Congratulations, Ms. Cruz.
Thank you.
Alicia, it is now your meeting.
Thank you. So at this time, I would like to call for nominations for vice president. Do I hear any nominations for vice president?
I nominate Sarah Kirby Gonzalez.
I'll second the nomination.
Do I hear any second nominations for vice president? At this time, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Congratulations, Ms. Kirby Gonzalez as our vice president. At this time, we'll take nominations for clerk or secretary for 2015. Can I call for nominations for secretary?
I'd like to nominate Katie Villegas.
Is there any second nominations for secretary? At this time, there's no second, so we'll go ahead and vote. All those in favor of Ms. Villegas for secretary, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions or nays?
Curious, what exactly does the secretary do? No, I'm fine. Thank you. No nays.
And are we doing clerk, Mr. Gillian? You're usually our clerk, is that correct?
Technically, I think you would have elected Ms. Villegas as the clerk, and I would serve as the board secretary
So
because of my
backwards.
illustrious assistant.
So should
Sorry, I
I
didn't catch that,
should I
Sarah.
redo the vote for clerk?
I guess you could, yes. I'd suggest you do.
All right, let me get a nomination for clerk of our Washington Unified School District Board. Nomination.
I nominate Katie Villegas.
Any seconds for our clerk?
A second.
All those in favor state aye.
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 Any opposed? Congratulations, Ms. Villegas, you're our clerk. Not secretary anymore, sorry.
Worried about that.
And now on to the, are we doing our committees now? I'm going to make sure I'm on the right track.
There are a couple more actions that require vote, and then we have some appointments that the board can discuss. The next order of business would be pertaining to the compensation for attendance at board meetings. It's permissible for the board at the reorganization meeting to determine an increase in that rate of up to 5%. Currently, you're at about $264, and the 5% increase would raise that to about $277, if my math is correct. That would be the maximum allowable increase.
Do you have any questions, comments? I'd like to make a motion to just keep it as it is, not any raise. Everybody okay with that? We want a raise?
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? So no raise for us.
Thank you for that. The next item would be to determine or establish the day of the week for our regularly scheduled board meetings. It's been past practice in this community to provide board meetings on both the second and fourth Thursday of each month, with some exceptions around holidays and summer months. But the second and fourth Thursday have been the norm. Open to consideration and discussion.
Any comments, questions? Anybody like to move it from Thursdays? We're all good on Thursdays?
I'd like to keep it on the day that we normally meet, Thursdays.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thursdays it is.
This is a very efficient body. I appreciate this very much. Now we're at a point where you can discuss the various appointments and responsibilities that individual board members take on. So the first one on the list here would be the appointment of the WUSD City of West Sac 2x2 committee members. We usually have 2 board members who meet in the 2x2 committee with 2 city council members.
I would like to continue on that board if anyone would like to join me.
I'd love to join you, Alicia.
Would anybody else like to? The 2x2?
You know, I think the 2x2 is one of the most important committees, and I think that it's important that we have, you know, not in deference to you just coming on the board, but I just feel like we need experience on the 2x2, and so I would like to see 2 folks that have been serving on the board. I do not want to be a part of it. I'm just making a comment about the composition. I have been on the 2x2 2 terms, and so I'm ready to turn it over to someone else. So that would be great, but I think should be experience.
Sarah?
I also had been interested in the 2x2.
I have no problem stepping out if you and Katie would like to be on the 2x2.
I also will defer. Oh, that's nice.
So I think we have Ms. Kirby Gonzalez and Ms. Villegas. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. So Ms. Sarah Kirby Gonzalez and Ms. Villegas on the 2x2?
Understood. Thank you. The Yolo County School Boards Association also requires a vote, and I passed that up. I apologize. We're out of order. I'm out of order.
I had previously been on that committee, and I'm fine with somebody taking over. It does require you driving to Woodland, but and if nobody else wants it, I will take it. But it's a great way to get to know the county school boards and your fellow school board members in other districts.
I would also be interested in that. I think it's a good experience for a new board member.
I think you'd have fun with it.
I agree.
I think we all agree. All those in favor of Norma being on the Yolo County Board?
Aye.
Any nays? Norma it is. Thank you, Norma.
Next up would be appointment of WUSD in the City of West Sacramento, the Universal Preschool for West Sacramento, up for West Sac.
Well, I am going to speak up. Probably 10 years ago, tonight is my 10-year anniversary on the board. I was on the Universal Preschool, and I would really like to at least go into the end of this term being a part of that committee. That was one of the most satisfying things that I've been able to do as a board member, and really see that launched and come to such a successful model, not only in the state but in the nation. And so I would really like to be on the up for West Sac. And I know there's 2 positions available for that, so I'm just stating my
I would also
desire.
like to be on the University Preschool Committee. It has an excellent someone, Kevin McCarty, and I have worked with him closely in the past. This is a bill I believe shows a lot of merit, and I believe by being on this committee we can be very helpful to him as well. I'm sorry.
Turn it on, Dave.
It's not on.
So can I move?
Thank you.
That they both
Well,
be appointed?
is there anyone else interested in it? Sarah, I know
I'm
you were on
okay
it.
stepping back from it. I think you would both be terrific.
Okay.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. So can we approve Norma Alcala and Mary Leland for for West Sac? I'm sorry, Katie, did you
So
want it?
moved.
Okay.
Sorry.
All those in favor say aye.
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 So we have Mary Leland and Norma Alcala.
Okay, finally, the last piece would be our local group, the Curriculum Council, and we would welcome 2 board members to participate with Curriculum Council.
I've been on the Curriculum Council, and I would love to continue if there are not 2 other people that would like to do it. I think it's been very beneficial, and it's a great way to hear from staff directly who are developing new classes and programs, and I've appreciated that time there.
I too would like to, I think my first term I spent a few times, but I'd like to serve on that committee also, if there's anyone else that would like to join us.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any nays? No. So that would be Ms. Kirby Gonzalez and myself, Ms. Cruz, or Alicia. I'm referring to myself. And then also, is this the time we're going to talk about the CSBA nomination? Dayton, should we bring that up then?
This would be a good time to do it.
Is there anyone interested in being nominated and joining the CSBA here in West Sacramento and represent us? I know in the past we haven't had anyone, and last year we nominated a board member from Davis, and I think it's a great opportunity. I think someone from the board should definitely represent us.
I just want to say I've been a delegate in the past, and it's an incredible experience to network with school board members across the state, and I would like to see one of our newer board members really take that step. I think it's important that Washington Unified is represented at CSBA as a delegate, and I think that's what you're talking about,
yes,
the delegate position for our region. Most of the meetings were very fortunate that CSBA is located right here in West Sacramento, so it's a fairly easy commute for us compared to those folks in Southern California. And the opportunity you have working with the Capitol and different issues, I think it's a nice exposure and certainly a nice representation for the board. So I'm just putting that out there and encouraging you to do it if you haven't been a delegate before. I have for a couple of years, and then we've been without one for the last couple of years. So I'd like to see somebody step up.
I would love to do it, but I would also be happy to nominate you if you would like to do it, Alicia.
Oh, me?
Because you've been talking about before. I know you had. I know you had discussed it before, Board President Cruz, and so that's why I wait to hear from you first. But I would be interested if you were not.
I was very interested in, and I would love to represent our board. But again, I don't want to be selfish either if somebody else wants to step forward. But it's exciting that there's a few of us that want to step forward. So do we know, do they meet once a year?
No.
Is it in the evenings? Do we know?
I would presume that would be up to the newly appointed body to determine a most appropriate time, but I'm not sure.
I can say that they have special projects that they work on. Sometimes those take some time during the day, but it's not very often. And you may be doing some review on they have the Golden Achievement or
the
Golden
Bell?
Award,
Okay.
where you might be doing site visits at the school. So, but that's not on a regular basis.
I think I'd like, if the rest of the board, I think I'd like to represent our board and do that and see how it goes.
Well, I will nominate Alicia Cruz for our delegate to CSBA.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can we
Any
do an
nays?
alternate if you can't make any meetings? Is that possible or no?
Can we have 2 delegates?
You could make that decision now if you want to have an alternate or 2 delegates, and we'll pursue that after the meeting tonight.
Ms. Kirby Gonzalez, did you want to be
I can be an alternate
an alternate?
if
Okay.
that's permissible. I don't know if we have that structure.
We have some paperwork to fill out then. Okay. So Ms. Kirby Gonzalez and myself will work with you and do the paperwork and see if we can have an alternate.
Understood. I have first and an alternate currently.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm excited. Okay, and we already had our reception, so we'll go to items to be discussed in closed session. Item number 1, Government Code Section 54956.8, Conference with Real Property Negotiators. Item number F2, Government Code Section 54957.6, Conference with Labor Negotiators, WTA and CSEA, Superintendent Gillian, Assistant Superintendent Peachin, and Assistant Superintendent Landsberg in attendance. Item F3, Government Code Section 54956.9, a liability claim. Claimant L. Mendez Jr., Agency, Washington Unified School District. Item F4, Government Code Section 54956.9, liability claim. Claimant G. Mendez, Agency, WUSD. Item F5, Government Section Code 54956.9, liability claim. Claimant L. Mendez, Agency, WUSD. Item number F6, Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Discipline Dismissal Release. Item F7, Government Code Section 54957, Public Employees Performance Evaluation, Superintendent. And I don't have any comments for closed session, so we'll reconvene in closed session and hopefully return maybe about an hour. You guys ready? Ready? I'd like to reopen the Washington Unified School District December board meeting. With that, I'd like to do the Pledge of Allegiance. If I could call on Deborah from the CSEA. You tried to sneak out.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll announce the actions taken in closed session. Item number 1, Government Code Section 54956.8, Conference with Real Property Negotiators. Directions were given. Item number F2, Government Code Section 54957.6, Conference with Labor Negotiators, WTA and CSEA. That was information received, direction given. Items F3, 4, and 5, Government Code Section 54956.9, liability claim. We have 3 separate claims. Claimant L. Mendez Jr., the claim was denied. Claimant G. Mendez, the claim is denied. Claimant L. Mendez, claim is denied. Item F6, the Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Discipline Dismissal. The board met in closed session to discuss the Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Discipline Dismissal Release, with a roll call vote of 5 yeses, 0 noes, no abstentions. The board adopted the resolution 1415-13, authorizing the superintendent or his designee to bring charges for cause for dismissal against a permanent certificated employee. And at that, we are at item J, communications and celebrations.
Thank you, Madam President. We have a number of celebrations this evening. First, we want to recognize Juanita Aguirre Patterson. She's been recognized as the outstanding school psychologist and the award recipient. In San Diego, she was recognized. She's been a psychologist in our district for over 20 years. I'm not sure, is she here, Mr. Spalding? But we wanted to bring forward the celebration because of her distinction throughout the state. She is here. Thank you so much. Please step forward. As a lead psychologist for the district for nearly 20 years, Ms. Patterson is described by colleagues as honest, empathetic, and a person of the highest integrity. The outstanding school psychologist awardee continues to create and maintain positive connections with those she works with, including building rapport with students and their families. School district staff regards Ms. Patterson as one of the invaluable members, as her attention to detail and years of experience generate meaningful plans for the success of students, families, and schools. Ms. Patterson has also developed an all-girls groups that over the past several years has helped young girls in the district develop good friendships and social skills. So we're very proud that she's been recognized, and we're pleased to have her on our team. Congratulations. I'd like to also recognize and thank Balanced Body for the generous $100 donation to Bridgeway Island. And we're going to recognize and thank Mr. Ralph Hurtado for a generous donation of a guitar and case to the Visual and Performing Arts program. He's also provided music lessons to our students on a volunteer basis, so we appreciate his kind contribution. Also want to recognize and thank the Oakland Raiders NFL Foundation and California National Guard for their generous donation of $2,000 to River City High School football. It was actually Coach Jason Stolpe who was recognized by the Raiders as the Outstanding Coach of the Week by presenting the district and River City High School with a victory over Woodland back in October. And I have word, I think, from the principal that Mr. Stolpe was also directly involved in conversations with the Raiders, and I think taking part claim for their success over the 49ers in last weekend's game. So his influence, I think, is now nationwide and world-renowned. So we're very pleased of him being recognized and appreciative to the Raiders for $2,000 to our Raider program. Finally, I want to recognize and thank Quality Cover Insurance Services for a generous donation of $150 to the River City High School girls basketball program. And that concludes our celebrations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gillian. Item K, Student Board Member Report, and our student's not here this evening, so we'll go on to CSCA report. Deborah?
Thanks, Don. I'd like to say congratulations to Mrs. Akala and Mrs. Kirby Gonzalez, our new board members, and also congratulations to Ms. Cruz, President. Just to give you a little information, we were in negotiations yesterday, and it seems to continue to be doing well. We look like we're having mutual interest and understanding on a lot of things. So we have another day next week, and we're trying to wrap it up so we can start a new year with fresh new ideas and a new start. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. Happy holidays to you.
Happy holidays to you guys.
And the WTA report?
Good evening. Thank you to and congratulations to the new school board member, Norma Akala, and the newly renewed school board member, Sarah Kirby Gonzalez, this year. Like to thank Food Services for our lovely snacks this evening, but special mention goes to the lemon bars from our trustee, Alicia Cruz, and the cookies from the Culinary Academy, which is exciting. Tonight, a couple of things I want to talk about. One, we're having difficulties within our district releasing and hiring teachers, which has been over the last few years in times of economic uncertainty has been a pretty easy process because there's been a large pool of available educators out there to fill positions. It's gotten real tight, and now it's becoming hard. And I was just hoping that just to reemphasize with the districts the importance of maintaining the relationships with our two big credential institutions in the area, Sac State and UC Davis, and certainly if any help you need on working on those, I'd be happy to do that. But as you know, as we move forward, those have always been very good sources for new educators coming into our district. Also want to talk about our energy program with Synergistics. I know when that proposal came to us a year ago, I had some concerns from the language of the agreement. There was a lot in the language that implied compliance as opposed to enthusiasm about the process, and that appears to be somewhat the case in what I'm hearing from sites and from teachers. Obviously, one of the programs from getting staff people excited about the process is that we don't directly see the benefits of saving energy. Obviously, as homeowners, we know every month when we switch off lights, our PG&E bill will go down, or SMUD bill, depending on where you live. But recently, teachers were at some of the sites were required to fill out and submit forms describing the things they had done in their classrooms to save energy. And at least one site, teachers were called out at a meeting for not submitting those forms or forgetting to turn items off in their classrooms. And this is, to me, against the spirit of what this energy program was supposed to be about. And I'm wondering if there's another way we can turn this around and make it actually a positive. Can we, when we do the energy audits, can we find those classrooms where teachers or it doesn't matter, the teacher, it could be a secretary in their work area, where they've done an excellent job of saving energy, and instead, give them a prize or put them in a raffle for a prize. In other words, a positive reinforcement instead of a negative one. And because I think that's what the intent of the program was. And I would like very much to see it succeed because we all gain by saving energy. I'm happy to discuss the joint efforts that WTA and Washington Unified are taking in professional development, and it looks like we're going to be jointly putting together a team of educators to go to the Good Teaching Conference in San Jose. And I'm excited about the process, and I'm hopeful that this is a model of something we can continue to do in the future and expand upon. I think if the district and teachers work together on professional development, we could make sure we have a very meaningful system and one that supports kids the best. Negotiations. I think you got to talk about that a little bit this evening. It seems we still got some distance between us in terms of our salary and benefits proposals. I'm hopeful we can get over those differences and move to a agreement real soon, and I'm looking forward to negotiations, and we will be meeting again next week. On that, I hope you all have a wonderful holiday, and we'll look forward to seeing you again in January. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, President Cruz, real quickly, I have a request from Ms. Hearn to come back. She forgot a very important item she'd like to share, so if it's okay with the board, I'd like to invite her back.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thanks for letting me come back. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to forget. We have our annual holiday party, CSCA, and I'm so sorry. I did not mean to walk off and forget this. And we really would like to have all the board members, Ms. Petrin and the superintendent. We would love to have all of you guys come and with us Wednesday on the 17th next week at the VFW Hall. And dinner will start at 5, and we would love to have all of you guys please come out and say hello and eat and mingle with everyone. I remember Ms. Kirby Gonzalez came last time and brought the babies, and she really had a good time. So I really like to see all of you guys come.
Is that the VFW Hall and Driver?
Yes, right behind Chevron.
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Wednesday, 5 o'clock.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any public comments at this time. Board and superintendent comments. Dr. Gillian, if you'd like to start.
Thank you. Just real quickly, in interest of time, I want to mention a couple things. Deborah, thank you for the invitation to the CSA party. That's always well attended and a wonderful event. We also have a couple of music performances next week at River City High School. You may have heard already. I think Mr. Marvelli sent word out, but I'll get that out in a reminder tomorrow. Both Tuesday and Wednesday evening, there are holiday festival music productions at River City High School. I would encourage you to attend. I also wanted to just mention that we managed to endure the storm, the big storm of 2014, without major incident. I'm pleased to report that most of it was, I think, media hype to some extent, but it was certainly a serious storm, and we took it seriously. But I wanted to just take a moment here and thank staff at our schools and also throughout the district office that really rallied together to make sure that our kids were safe. And when we made the determination that we were going to go on with business as usual, that ultimately we made the right decision. But I did want to report to the board that we weathered the storm, if you will. We have more weather in store, and we'll continue to keep our guard up. We had about 78% attendance today, so a number of our kids were home with parents, and it was really predominantly our younger kids. I'd say K-3 that were staying home, but we took a look at that. Our typical average attendance any given day is about 95%, so we definitely noticed some absences, but again, I think that the most important thing is that kids were warm and dry and safe. So we'll continue to monitor the weather and do what we need to do as storms ensue. And that's what I wanted to report at this time. Thanks.
Thank you. Ms. Villegas, any?
I don't have.
Ms.
I'm sorry. I do. I just want to report out that we had the most successful community giveaway day at Westfield Elementary School ever. We served 450 families with the Yolo County Children's Alliance, and got news coverage, newspaper coverage, and it was very exciting to see all the families come out. So I just want to thank about at least 50 River City High School students that showed up to help volunteer, and many community members, and a lot of people donated. Don Stoffler was there with us, and it was a great event. So thanks, everybody.
Ms. Norma Collar?
Oh, I was just going to say that Sarah and I had a wonderful opportunity to go to the Christmas tree lighting with her children, and we heard the wonderful bands from River City High School. So it was really fantastic being out there and seeing our children performing the arts, and I really encourage everyone to go next year.
Thank you. Ms. Leland?
Oh, I just want to say how excited I am that we have a new team, and I'm not sure. I'd like to kind of look in the history books, but I think it's the first time that we've had 5 all women on our school board. It was quite different when I came on the board 10 years ago. I was the only woman. And I just want to compliment and thank each one of you for doing your part of community service. It's important to be a part of our community and really having this wonderful opportunity to work with our district and to provide the education that all of our children deserve. And so I'm just pleased to be a part of this all-woman team, and we're excited. We have a workshop that's coming up this coming weekend and Monday and Tuesday that I think we're all going to attend, and I want to wish each and every one of you a Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Kirby Gonzalez?
Thank you. I'd like to once again thank staff and reiterate the message that I thought they did a fabulous job preparing for today with the weather conditions, better than many districts I saw in the area, and no big districts in the area did close school. I think you made the right call and you did a good job. Too bad more families didn't come, because I know there was a lot of good learning that took place, so thank you to that. I did have a curriculum council meeting. Very excited about the culinary classes that came forward, because they were, my daughter scribbled all over my notes, but so I might need a correction over here maybe. But the curriculum is developed from the National Restaurant Association, correct? Yes. So the National Restaurant Association, great stuff, good curriculum. Not only is it good curriculum in terms of the culinary piece, but also some life skills with resume building, business skills, a lot of good stuff. I was very excited to see that. Also very excited that Curriculum Council is a place where teachers bring forward their proposals. So there was a teacher with computer science who saw a need, knew that they needed an AP class and developed a program for that. And how wonderful that we can offer things with AP credits and save that college money for the families and that they can get that credit. So I really appreciate Curriculum Council. Great meeting, and thank you for the tree lighting. To go along the same lines as Mr. Stoffer said about wanting to make sure that we are attracting good teachers, I think one way to do that is Sac State's credential program, where we work with the credentialed teachers in their credential program. They'll be coming up on their second semester, many of them. This is about the time when they look for cooperating teachers. Last year, I remember looking at their list, and I saw Stonegate on the list, but I don't know if any others were. And they're often looking for schools with a demographic that really fits us. Sometimes low socioeconomic students that sometimes are underserved in certain ways. So I think reaching out to Sac State as they look right now would be a great thing. Thank you.
And we did have a 2x2 meeting, and it was a great meeting between the city and our school board and the district. We did discuss some wellness incentives, maybe with the rec center. So I look forward to hearing from teachers if they're interested in joining our rec center, and maybe some possibilities we're going to be able to offer them. We also discussed crosswalks at River City, which many of you know. Some of the students running across, there's no crosswalk, so we are having that conversation. So to the board members that are going on that 2x2 committee, we have some real good discussions, so hope to keep it up. Also, I'd like to thank the WTA for hosting a dinner for the board members, and the Refresher Brown Act that we took. That was great for some of us to hear. The new board member, I know Norma was there and Sarah was there, and it was a great refresher. Sometimes we just need that refresher. And also I want to thank our staff too for the great communication about the weather, the telephone calls, the websites. I found it really informative, although my son kept saying it's going to cancel, but I kept pointing to the website. So I think the staff did a great job on that. And with that, we can open the public hearing for a Sunshine CSA proposal. And having no public comments or any comments, we'll close that public hearing. We're item O, information and discussion items. Number 1, updates on Farm to Fork Culinary Program. Mr. Spalding.
Good evening, President Cruz, members of the board, our newest member. Congratulations. Congratulations on your reelection, Mr. Kirby-Gonzalez, Dr. Gilliland. We want to bring to you this evening just a kind of a quick update on an initiative that we're working with the Center for Land-Based Learning on. And I think you've heard about some of this, but we wanted to kind of keep you updated on what was happening. Mary Kimball with the Center for Land-Based Learning is here, and Sarah Bernal, who is local Center for Land-Based Learning trained urban farmer, and you probably know her work if you've been by 5th and C on the north side of town. We've been meeting to talk about the potential for farming, doing some urban farming on some of our land. And we're looking specifically at the Yolo High School area. There's a lot of land at the very back of fields that really aren't used by the school. And it gives us the opportunity to engage in a partnership where we can have students who are actually learning farming techniques. That the Center for Land-Based Learning also benefits from having that area. And we can use some of the produce kind of in a sharecropping arrangement that we can source our own kitchens, source our culinary program, maybe engage in some farmers markets, those kinds of things. So it's kind of an exciting development, and really consistent with what we've been talking about the last couple of years. I think some of you remember the slides that I brought forward of this crazy idea of a Farm to Fork Academy, that we would actually have farming pieces and culinary pieces. That's really kind of within reach now with the work that the board has done to move us forward on culinary, and then this. So I want to talk just really briefly about it and then bring you guys up, because I know we're trying to keep it short. But is there? There is no red. I don't have a laser. You have the picture in front of you. And if you look at the green section, that's really the area we're talking about. And I believe it's about 1.7 acres, just under 2 acres. And if you look at the white areas that are to the right of that, to the left of that, those are not in existence right now, but those are what are slated as the solar panels that would go up. So you can see kind of where it is in relationship to the solar panels. So you have that area. Remember that YOLO used to be an elementary school, so you have a lot of playground space back there. So the solar panels would occupy primarily playground space. We're looking to put the farming beyond it in a field that's really not used at all by the students right now. And then if you look at the red two-way arrow up there, we're looking for egress to that area to actually not come through the school, but come through the back with where Collins Teen Center is. And we've had some conversations, Mary's had some conversations with folks over there, and I think that's very doable. What we ultimately want to do is bring it forward to you as a memorandum of understanding. So we're working kind of the legal side of that, but just that's kind of the concept. Mary, would you like to talk a little more about it? Sarah, you too? Okay, not so much.
Good evening, Board, Chair Cruz. It's really great to be here tonight. We have been working with Bill and with Scott for quite some time now, and it's very exciting to be here for the first time to present to you just a little snippet, and we look forward to the future of maybe further discussions. If we don't need that, that's fine too. If you could put there we go. So as you probably know, the Center for Land-Based Learning, he just alluded to it, has been running the urban farm, West Sacramento Urban Farm at 5th and C. That was launched in May of this year. It's 2/3 of an acre. It was always the intention with the city as well as with other private and public people here in the city of West Sacramento to add more urban farms to this place, to this beautiful city, and to continue to work towards more opportunities for beginning farmers. We Center for Land-Based Learning does a lot of things, focused mostly on high school education around sustainable agriculture, but we also provide a beginning farmer training program for adults. And many of the adults that go through our program, when they graduate that 7-month program, they are looking for opportunities to farm in urban areas. And we didn't have that opportunity for them as of yet. We have land out near Winners, and we also subleased other land that we can provide, but we didn't have the urban side. So with this opportunity, the first at 5th and C, we have another site now off of Cummings, which is another acre with West Sacramento Urban Housing, or Housing Development Corporation, excuse me. This would potentially be our third site, and we are in negotiations now for 3.5 acres with Engstrom Properties across from Nugget Market, off of the Jefferson area. So we're expanding quickly. This, though, is a huge priority for us, a huge priority, not only because of the education potential, because of your culinary academy, because that's what we do, but because of the fact that Raley's has already committed $30,000, not only to this site, but to our 5th and C site. They want to see, not only they want to see, but they are committed to putting the money in for at least 3 years, to getting this site up and going, to working with your youth in this district, and to create literally a state-of-the-art kind of opportunity for Farm to Fork. We also know that one of the reasons they're super excited about this site is, of course, it's right across the street from their Raley store. And as was mentioned, it is next door, of course, to the Collins Teen Center, which is named after one of the founders of Raley Supermarkets. So there's a lot of emotional connection for the folks at Raley's. They are literally waiting for approval so that they can help us begin to create this site. And we would do that with beginning farmers that we work with, including Sarah, who's a staff member of ours, but other beginning farmers as well. So, and also Dan Ramos, I want to give a shout out to him. He has already committed to helping us with that egress The ramp that will be needed to come off, it's quite a drop there, if anyone knows that, from the back of the Collins Teen Center down to that field. And so we actually need to create a ramp so that we can get a larger equipment in and out. We definitely don't want to be going over the pavement area of your school, because that's a playground area. That's basketball courts and things like that. It's not made for large equipment to move over. So lots more details, I'm sure, to work out, but I'm here tonight to tell you how excited we are to work with this district, how excited we have been to work with your staff and your teachers. And we look forward to so many more opportunities if we're able to work together to create this opportunity for your community. So thank you.
Thank you. Good.
Unless there's any questions.
I do have one question.
Sure.
I know this is probably going to happen down the line, but I know in previous years when we've had, I want to say community gardens, I know this isn't a community garden, but looking at the place, is there going to be a fence? Is there going to be something to secure this from other folks coming in? Because if we're bringing the food into our schools, we want to make sure it's clean, sustainable, and
Absolutely. We've talked quite a bit, Scott and I and Bill and Sarah, of course, have talked quite a bit about fencing. And yes, absolutely, I think that's part of the plan, is it not, Scott? And as you saw in the display there's the solar panels. And so the solar panel, I think the plan is that there would be a fence just beyond the solar panels, creating certainly a barrier to a certain extent between the school grounds and the farm. But you know, we don't want it to be such a barrier that literally it doesn't feel inviting as well. So there's kind of a little bit of a challenge there that I know we'll work on and we'll work towards. But absolutely, the goal of food safety, and this farm will have a food safety plan that will be enabling it to be able to produce food. You know, obviously for your own cafeterias and school, not just that school, but potentially other schools in the future. And the other thing I wanted to say I forgot about Raley's is that part of their role in this is that 25% of the food that is produced at the sites that they're sponsoring would go to their Food for Families program. And they want to keep the food that is produced in West Sacramento to the food that goes to West Sacramento families as well. So that's a commitment that they're also making.
I'd like to thank you because this is one of many of our good partnerships it's going to be created by bringing the culinary program, so it's exciting to see everybody come together. Is there any more comments?
I'd like to. I just want to welcome Mary and Sarah here. So excited! I know Mary and I went through the American Leadership Forum class together a couple of years ago and had so much fun. And I know this woman does great work throughout the 14 county regions that she covers. So. And Sarah's done great work at 5th and C, and I know you sell out of your vegetables often, and so proud of you guys to finally make this partnership happen. This is truly a collaborative effort with all folks involved, Raley's included, and this is what we want, where businesses, local businesses can sponsor programs at our school sites. So thanks for bringing this forward.
You're welcome. And I also want to say that I don't know of any other kinds of situations like this. So this will be quite a model, not just for this region, but the state and beyond. So again, a testament to your staff, your board, all the folks that are working together on this.
Did you have something?
Yeah.
Ms. Lee?
Just real quick, I also want to just welcome you here, I'm so excited about the fact that you're already looking at industry and business through the curriculum that Sarah had talked about and partnering with them, the nonprofit partnership. I also don't want to leave this conversation without talking about the opportunity to articulate with some of the great culinary programs that we have in our community college system, both at Cosumnes River and then American River College, that I'm very familiar with. And so I hope our program will be able to provide that pathway and articulation. Because we know the jobs here in the Sacramento region are available. So it's just very exciting, most of all for our students. So
well, and as I've told Chef Michael Toohey, who's been hired, as you know, for the new arena downtown, I said, we will have the closest farms to the arena. Just saying. Because their commitment is 90% of the food that will be served at the new arenas from local sources. So how many more opportunities will that provide for your community? Yeah,
that's amazing.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Ms. Kirby Gonzalez has a question.
I love your enthusiasm.
Oh,
I love
thank
this
you.
whole thing. It's contagious and it's great. Just a quick question in terms of looking at grants or where we are, if we need to go further. Do you feel that the funding right now, this is a good amount of money? Is this, may never be enough, but is this enough money to really get started and go with this? Or should we look at some grants or things also, or are we pretty much good in that?
That's a great question. What the funding from Raley's will do will be to enable the farm to not only get up and going, but run successfully. Infrastructure, we have a whole budget already figured out of the kinds of infrastructure that we would need at the site, and it's very minimal. It's like storage shed and a place to wash vegetables, shade area, those kinds of things. Having a cooler, those kinds of things are also important. So those are a part of the budget that we've presented to Raley's that they're committed to. Seeds, starts, irrigation system, et cetera, et cetera. What it doesn't obviously cover is any additional kind of programming that you would like to create as a part of this connection. So absolutely, I think that we are in an incredible position to be able to start putting and looking for grants in partnership, the kinds of grants we could put in, the kinds of grants that a school district that can put in that we don't have eligibility for, and that public-private partnership, as you know, that are so important in grant applications these days. We're working right now with the County of Yolo on a grant to USDA. So there's obviously state grants, there's federal grants, there's foundation grants, as you well know. So this kind of partnership, as well as the myriad of different businesses that have already signed on, and we know more will, is perfect. So it gets the farm going, gets the opportunity there for the youth to be involved to a certain extent, but if we want to expand that, that's more funding. So and now's the time to be able to start looking at that.
Great. Thank you
Thanks
very
for
much.
that question.
Thank you. Any more comments, questions? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And Bill, I think you need to leave now. Was that your final presentation?
Got a couple more items.
Oh, you have
I'm
more?
hanging
Okay,
out for.
sorry,
Thank
we're
you.
trying to get you out. Did you have a couple more or just one, Bill?
After Quia.
Just want to move that up so we can take off?
I'm okay with that.
I think we've all agreed we can move that up so you can take off. That's okay?
Your call, board.
I'm okay with that.
I was holding Bill captive.
I think we're all agreement if you want to come on up. That's number 4.
There were actually 2 items. There's item 3 and item 4. I know.
Yeah, you said one. Now
I
you're
said one.
asking
Well,
for
Quia
2.
was one. That was when I was supposed to leave after Quia. Did you want to change the order for that for 3 and 4? CTE job description, I think, is pretty straightforward and kind of self-explanatory. But if you have any questions, I'm here to answer those questions.
Any conversation, questions, comments?
I had a couple questions regarding the physical requirements that you're asking, and when I read through the job description and what we're asking somebody to do, it seems that somebody could easily fulfill that job description and be in a wheelchair. But then when we look at the physical requirement, they can't be in a wheelchair. So could you just reiterate to me maybe why that is needed, or if I can make a motion to approve without that piece in it?
I'm not really expert in that particular part of it because that's usually something that our risk manager works on. All of our job descriptions contain something like this. They talk about sample physical abilities, and so it's really designed to be straightforward and clear about what are the kind of the physical demands of the job. So it's kind of boilerplate. I might need to punt to you, Dr. Peachin, or maybe we just wait or approve. Okay. Okay.
I don't feel comfortable approving it with those physical requirements. So it could come back to us with that, or I could make a motion to approve it and take out those physical requirements.
Those are standard in all of our job descriptions, or?
Language like this, yes. The 25 pounds I recognize from virtually all the ones that I've seen. A lot of the other ones I've seen as well, answering the phone, the communication, those kinds of things are pretty typical.
There's the bending at the waist, and there were a few of those.
I've seen those, yeah, I've seen those in most as well. And what it tries to describe is what the physical, basically what the physical demand, and it's not really all that demanding, but it's really designed to kind of express, what would be the physical requirements of any of our jobs. But a lot of them are very similar to this.
I think I raised some questions earlier and had some conversations. I just have concerns of the wording. It's kind of, I mean, I've seen state jobs, I've applied for jobs, and it just seems kind of cumbersome that they're not full sentences, or I know it's probably made for bullet points, but I know that I think one of them says see and hear, and to me that's not a full thought. See and hear what? See and I know what it's saying, but if we're trying to hire quality people, I just think we could word that a little bit better. So I'm with Sarah. I mean, we can kick it over to another meeting, or we can approve it and take it out, or approve it and talk about modifications. I don't know if there's any comments, questions.
If it's okay with the board, I would like to move forward and come back with additional language or changes to language, and go ahead and post it as a draft so we can move to fill the position. The intent in the board action recently, or not recently, maybe 6 months ago, was to fill this position mid-year in preparation for our August start. So it's really important that we move forward. We'll post the position as a draft. We will incorporate accommodations, I guess, to make it work for more folks, if you will, and bring back additional language for your review later, but I'd like to move forward with our process.
I'm good with that.
Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Thank you, Bill. And item number 4.
Item number 4 is a request to approve a waiver to the State Board of Education for provision of the Quality Educational Investment Act, which is QEIA. I think you know that Elkhorn is in its last year of QEIA implementation, and this was a 7-year funding stream that came as a result of basically a lawsuit settlement between CTA and then Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger. QEIA required a number of different things, and was really designed to try to increase a level of investment at certain schools that were identified. And some of the requirements included reducing class size, and there was a whole formula for how those class sizes would be reduced. But for grades K through 3, asked that those class sizes be brought to 20. This particular year, and this is our last year of QEIA implementation, we had a couple of situations, a couple of classes that were above that 20 mark. And what we're asking for from the State Board of Education is a waiver on that particular provision, that we could take it up to 22, which would be consistent with our contract language. So it would be, kind of at where other elementary schools are for this 1 year. What that waiver allows us to do is to have a 2-year period of time after this year to spend down whatever's in carryover. We believe it'll be over $300,000. That gives us 2 years to spend it down rather than 1 year. We actually got advice from the person who had been the QEIA advisor for Northern California on this, to actually seek this waiver. They've been granted in 90% of the cases where they've gone before State Board of Education. And Ed Code, this is one of those Ed Code 101 things, but Ed Code is meant to be a permissive code, which allows you, it's one of the kinds of codes and laws that allows you to waive it under certain circumstances, and you can do that with the State Board of Education. We met last week with Mr. Don Stauffer, and part of getting the waiver is asking your bargaining unit if they can either endorse, be neutral, or if they want to oppose the measure. They've chosen to endorse it for the reasons that we talked about, because of the additional year that allows us to spend this down. So we're asking for your approval, and then we would be submitting it to the State Board of Education, and they would put it on for their approval.
Any comments, questions?
Well, I think the important part of approving this is that it would allow us not to have to overflow students to other schools. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is created because we wanted to not overflow.
Right.
And so in doing this, it allows us to continue to keep those kids where they are, and then also to have that second year to spend down whatever's in, and not give that money back.
Right. Okay. That would be an important consideration for my vote.
More comments, questions? I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All those in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for accommodating my schedule with the board meeting.
Drive safe.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go back to information discussion items. Number 2, presentation of certificates of participation sale results.
Mr. Landsberger has some additional good news for us in regards to the COPs and the sale of the bonds. Scott?
Thank you. You have a document in front of you. It was also put for public pickup. When we came to you with the certificate of participation sale for Solar Power Phase 3, you approved the transaction and asked that once the transaction was completed, we brought data back to you to tell you what the final sale results were of the bond. Bond was sold on November 19th. It was a $6,055,000 bond. It has a true interest cost of 3.7%, which is 60 basis points below the pre-sale estimates that we had. What that did for the board is that created a savings of $5 million over 30 years, or $600,000 more than the estimate that we had when we first brought the financing package to you. Those 2 points are highlighted on the first page of a 4-page executive summary that I've handed out. The next point that I think is really important in this document is on the 3rd page, where you see that we went to the open market as far as bidding for the underwriter, competitive between Robert Baird and Hutchinson Shockey. Robert Baird had the winning bid, and that's who we moved forward with. Final financing, again, as I said, you're going to now see a positive cash flow for the program from year 1 through the cycle of the program. It's a 25-year note. It's an increase of $100,000 in savings. Total savings is over $5 million. Current value in current day dollars, present value is $2.6 million in savings for the project. And the last page of this executive summary just gives you a graphical presentation of how the savings pans out between years 1 and year 25, which is when the debt service is finished for the bond. Any questions?
Any questions? Comments?
No, this is just great news, tremendous result, good work on the part of the team. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Second.
Thank you so much, Scott.
You're welcome.
So we're off to action items. Number 1, P1, approve the Washington Unified School District financial statement, independent audit for fiscal 2013-14.
Our auditor, Mr. James Marta, is here representing his company to walk the board through our audit for the 2013-14 year. This is an annual process, a mandate, and we appreciate our partnership with Mr. Marta, an objective, critical friend, I'd say, to help us guide our resources. Mr. Marta.
Okay. And do you have that? Here we go. I have a presentation up there. Well, the financial audit is a critical process. For you board members who are new, if anyone hasn't looked at one of these reports, it's over 68 pages long. And if you go ahead and look at a company like General Electric, their audit report's not even that long. And the reason why yours is so big is you have so much accountability. Every time you get some dollars, somebody wants you to be answerable to them. Well, and so if you're looking at the report, probably the 2 things you should look at. 1, what is the opinion? And 2, is there some findings? And then, squeeze in on that. But really, it's a report on whether the financial statements fairly present the position. And we have an unmodified opinion, so that's auditor speak to say no changes in the financials overall. They fairly present the financial position. That after you look at that, after the opinion, there's the management discussion analysis. It's a great place for you to find out truly what kind of happened during the year. Did the financial position improve or deteriorate? Now, sometimes your financial position goes down because you spend money or you got some bond money last year and you built some things. So that's not a bad thing. So it's a great place for you to get a sense of what happened during the year and why. After that, so what are the results? Revenues are up about 10% from the prior year, and that's primarily from the strengthening economy plus the different funding formulas from the state. Expenditures are down, and that's because you've had swings on different capital projects and such. And the government-wide financial position, that's everything all taken together, kind of decreased a little bit. We have to remember, sometimes decreases doesn't mean cash went out the door. Us accountants, we depreciate your buildings and stuff, and so that's reflected in that decrease. And the general fund balance has remained about the same, a little bit decrease. The district maintains a 14.5% reserve for economic uncertainties. That's above the minimum. Now, some people look at financial statements, and a few years ago, the state was recommending that all the districts spend down to the minimum. But I look at it like this. When I drive home tonight, I don't want to have on my car, on the tread, the minimum, right? You know, because you could slide out, right? You don't want to do that on your financials. And so you had, during your tough economic times, I've looked at your financials, and you guys have maintained really excellent stability, in part because you've had good growth in your community, you've had increase in ADA, and you've been able to maintain more stability than other districts because of those things. And part of it is maintaining those dollars. And so as the revenues have been strengthening, you've been able to strengthen your programs. But you actually did, in 2013, make some conscious decisions to spend down the money. And when that was happening, I was talking to Scott, and he was confident. And, you know, you have carried through and have been able to do what you need to do for your district. A couple things just to point out of where your primary money comes from. You get 47% of your revenues come from federal and state aid. And then you have other operating grants, and you have taxes from the local community. And the state kind of makes up the difference between your tax money and what your full funding in a funding formula to equalize across the state. And your expenses, most of it is towards instruction related, and general admin is about 8%. And I'll just kind of flip through these. The biggest expenses for the district is salaries and benefits. It's about 82%, and that's why when you have cuts, they a lot of times hit salaries and benefits, and when you have increases in costs like benefits, that has a big squeeze on it. And if you look there, only 4% is for books and supplies, so that does make it difficult for operating the district. Your average daily attendance, that's the biggest driver of your revenue, is because you get paid per student a lot of your funding, and that has been strong and been increasing as a growing area. There's a lot of communities in the state that are having declining enrollment, and so you're really enjoying that for your district. So the economic outlook, actually, it looks good. You know, we have a strengthening economy, but there's some things, some tricks Sacramento have done to get through these things. They've borrowed from funds, they've had federal funds that help support it, and they've had debt. And so one of the things we get concerned going forward is how the state is going to ensure that the STRS, that's the teachers' retirement, is funded. And they didn't fund it this year, so it's going deeper in debt. And just to keep it from going deeper, they have to fund an additional $4.5 billion, and they haven't been doing that. So that's one of the things we're going to be aware that's going to hit the budget at some point for the districts. The audit is a critical process, and because of that, we do give you letters on certain things. And so there's reports on state compliance, what the state requires, on government requirements, federal requirements, and the short story is there's no findings on those, so that's really good. So that's the back part of the report. But we do look also at what happens at the sites, and so we had some ASB, so it's the student body findings, and the auditors call it a significant finding. And a significant finding just means that, well, this exposes that something could happen. So let's say you had a store or a bank and you didn't lock the door. Well, it doesn't mean you lost money, but that was an exposure. And so so some of these in here are accounting things, and the district, hopefully you can get support from the business office to support these sites over here. And we did find one thing in the accounting, a certain fund that they didn't record some payables this year. And we did correct that during the audit, but we have to note it. And under federal compliance, those are really high, stringent requirements. We didn't find any findings, so that's really excellent performance for the district. So overall, the audit was conducted as planned. No disagreements, no uncorrected misstatements, and they didn't change the accounting to make things look good. So we have to report that to you. So we really would like to thank the district staff, especially Kylie and her team, because they really spearhead and facilitate the rest of the audit with the rest of the district, and that went really well. Are there any questions?
Any questions, comments from the board?
Good news again.
Yes, good news.
Anyone else? I was excited to see about the attendance because I'm sure those, I know as a district we've been, that was one of our priorities, and I know we're sending out those lovely letters when the kids don't show up. So I'm hoping that that's helping. So that was great. Thank you for your report.
Okay, thank you.
Action item P2, the Empowering Possibilities International Charter EPIC Board to grant or deny the charter petition. Dr. Gillian?
Excuse me, President Cruz, I think there's a vote required.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I just said thank you very much. It was good news, so, you know.
That's very cordial, but we need to vote.
I'll move that we approve the Washington Unified School District's financial statement independent audit for fiscal 2013-2014.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Thank you. Now we can go to action item P2, the EPIC charter petition.
Members of the board, I believe you have a copy of the document that I provided to you. This is basically a review, an extensive review that has been conducted by staff and also our legal counsel. There are some things that I'm going to read directly from this report, but I won't hit every single point. I think just maybe the key elements, if you will. Per Ed Code 47605, the governing board of the school district shall not deny a petition for an establishment of a charter school unless it makes written factual findings specific to the particular petition, setting forth facts to support one or more of the following findings. And you can see that there are 5 specific findings listed. 1, the charter school presents an unsound educational program for the pupils to be enrolled in the charter school. 2, the petitioners are demonstrably unlikely to successfully implement the program set forth in the petition. Number 3, the petition does not contain the number of signatures required. Number 4, the petition does not contain an affirmation of each of the conditions described. And number 5, the petition does not contain reasonably comprehensive descriptions of all 16 specified elements in that particular Ed Code. We received the charter petition from the EPIC, Empowering Possibilities International Charter School Program, back in September. We had a public hearing here before this board in October, and now it's time for the board's decision and discussion regarding this particular petition. After the extensive review, again, as I mentioned, of legal counsel and countless hours of staff's time, I am recommending that we approve this charter petition as presented. And I say that on the basis of that legal review and those 5 critical elements that we must be able to address in a denial. If we were to deny the petition, it's likely that it would go to an appeal at the county level and possibly to the state, and it's questionable about whether or not it would be approved at that level. It's always questionable. The law, in fact, is very favorable to charters, and this particular group has a proven track record, I would suggest. If the board so chooses to deny the EPIC petition, I do feel that there is grounds and a basis for your denial, and that would be on the premise that the petitioners are demonstrably unlikely to successfully implement the program set forth in the petition. This particular claim is really based on one, I think, very important and valid element, and that is that the petition was originally submitted to the district in what we consider to be its full form back in September, as I mentioned. 2 months later, over 2 months later, we received supplemental information that was extensively more detailed, particularly in the area of the financials. Without that supplemental material, we were not able necessarily to maneuver through the actual document to determine whether or not it was a viable plan from a fiscal standpoint, nor was there indication of the facility that would be provided. So the argument can be made, in fact, and I think it's defensible, that the petition was not complete when it was submitted, and the actual clock started with the due process of the public hearing and also the final vote tonight based on when it was first submitted. So there's that piece. You have some detailed information from Mr. Landsberger that goes through the various elements of the financial profile, if you will, and it's quite extensive and detailed. I won't read all of that to you, but it's over 2 pages or so of very specific concerns that were expressed by Mr. Landsberger. I'll also share that in his concluding comments, again, this is information that he compiled and provided for the board prior to the submission or the review of the supplemental material. He indicates that it's our contention that if the board chooses to deny, excuse me, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself. There's no specific plan for facilities. The petition simply states EPIC proposes to be located at a leased facility within the district of Washington Unified School District boundaries. EPIC may elect to pause, pursue facilities from the district through Proposition 39 at a later date. His final concluding comment is that he could not approve it the way it was presented. I feel that that supplemental information does provide a number of, it does address a number of concerns that we have. It does not necessarily answer all of the questions, but it's substantial. Again, there are some certain things that the board does, in fact, choose to approve the petition that would still need to be worked out with the petitioners, and I'll cover some of those right here. These are not elements that would necessarily be basis to deny, but are issues that would need to resolve before we joined in partnership with this particular group. First off, the petition calls for an initial authorization of 5 years. 5 years is, in fact, the maximum permissible in an initial authorization. Our practice, the board is probably aware, has been to go with 3 years for the initial authorization. Any subsequent authorization by statute is automatically 5 years, but that first period is really kind of a trial run, if you will, to see if they get their footing before we would be committed to support it for the first 5 years. My contention with the significance of the International Baccalaureate program that this particular program is derived and built upon, it would be important to the board to see where they are maybe in 3 or 4 years with the development of the IB program before you would commit to the full 5 years. So my recommendation would be to go fewer than the 5 they're requesting. Secondly, Gateway Community Charters organizations have a proven track record, as I mentioned before, as a provider in this region. However, they're also identified as one of California's most segregated schools throughout the state, and that is of concern to us. The governing law pertaining to the 16 elements stipulates that the petitioners must demonstrate the means by which they will achieve a racial and ethnic balance among its pupils that's reflective of the general population residing within the territorial jurisdiction of the district to which they serve. And based on their numbers, they do not have that representation currently. I would maintain that in their particular petition, they talk about striking that balance. They talk about the means to which they're going to be able to accomplish that. And our critique of the petition is limited to what they claim they will do. I simply suggest to you that based on their overall numbers throughout their organization, it appears that that may be a challenge for them down the road, and that may be, in fact, something the board would be considering if we're coming up on a renewal, perhaps, if they did not fulfill that obligation in providing that balance. The EPIC petition provides a reasonably comprehensive description of how the racial and ethnic balance will be addressed. So again, that's really the compelling piece in terms of why the recommendation is to support. Finally, the EPIC petition indicates that that EPIC shall be categorized as a public school of the district in accordance with Education Code 47641B. And basically, this is for the provision of special ed services, if you will. They would be represented as a school within our district and part of our SELPA. However, their funding flow and their mechanism and their fiscal suggest that they would be the recipients of direct funding for special ed services. And then they would, but that's not the way, I guess what I need to say is that that's not the way our MOU is currently configured with the other 2 charters we support. The revenue would need to come directly to our district, and then they would be responsible for covering additional costs, because as we all know, special ed funding does not cover the actual cost. So I've had the conversation with the director of the program. She understands this, and I think based on, I'm sure she'll be speaking to you tonight, but my understanding is that that was her understanding of the way it would play out anyway, so I don't know that that's an issue. But those are the types of things we'd need to work through. Again, the recommendation would be to approve. If the board so chooses to deny, the grounds would be that the petitioners are demonstrably unlikely to be successful in implementing the program as presented in the original petition. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to let the board know that we do have some public comments on this. Do you want to hear the public comments before we comment? I do want to remind the public that at this time, the public may address the board on this topic, and the board may limit the total time for public input on any topic to 20 minutes unless it chooses to waive the item limit for a particular item. Individual speakers may be limited to 3 minutes to comment on any topic, and public comments consisting of individual charges, complaints, or derogatory remarks about any district employee are requested to be submitted in writing to the administration in accordance with the district's complaint procedure. And with that, I'll start with is it Jason Sample?
Good evening, Board President. My name is Jason Sample, Director of Community Engagement for Gateway Community Charters. First of all, let me just start off by giving an appreciation and thank you to Dr. Gilliland and the staff for their recommendation of approval tonight. We are truly excited about this opportunity to partner with the district. There is one just quick item that I did want to address in my brief time. The Sacramento Bee report that was referenced in the staff letter written by Stephen Maganini and Philip Reese actually referred to only one of Gateway Community Charter Schools, Community Outreach Academy. The entire article was really about that school. They referenced and really did not spend the time sharing the full portfolio of Gateway Community Charter Schools and the work that we've done. We are committed and will be seen with this charter to really striking that racial and ethnic balance. We have done a phenomenal job in a number of our other schools, and we look forward to doing that same job here in Washington Unified. Once again, I want to say thank you to staff for the recommendation of approval, and we do thank you for your thoughtful consideration tonight.
Thank you. Next, I have Lisa Coors, C-O-R-R.
Good evening, board members, and I appreciate the time to speak. My name is Lisa Coor. I'm one of the partners at Young, Minnie, and Coor. I'm here tonight representing the petitioners. I wanted to just speak to a few of the items that were raised in the recommendation. I appreciate the time the staff put in and the recommendation for approval. I wanted to point out some information with regard to the information that was provided in the fiscal information. The Education Code actually separates out the financial information from the rest of the charter. And so while we have 16 required elements of a charter petition, in an entire different area of the law, 47605G, it sets out that the petitioner shall also provide you with a 1-year budget and 3 years of cash flow. That information has been provided to you as part of that original submission, and so satisfied the legal requirements. But interestingly enough, it's not actually specific to the timing of that submission. It's just that you have a charter here, A to G requirements, A to P requirements, 16 elements, and then you also have to provide that financial information which was provided. These petitioners are quite used to having district interaction back and forth with regard to their charter documents and their submissions over the years. They have a number of charters, and different districts are different in the way they interact once a charter has been submitted. The staff did their review on their own, which is perfectly lawful, but when they weren't asking for additional information, the petitioners just provided additional information that is typically sought, and so in so doing may have led to some confusion, but the district is not prohibited from reviewing that additional information. The Education Code is silent as to that, and so you're totally permitted to do so, and your board policy is silent as to that as well, thus allowing for that. And it's quite typical that additional information is reviewed or even sought by a district in that interim period between the submission and the action that is taken.
I also noted some information in the recommendation regarding an internal dispute resolution policy. That is not part of the 16 elements that are required by law either. The only requirement in law regarding a dispute resolution policy is disputes that are handled between the district and the charter school, which is included as part of the charter petition. And also, as far as an internal dispute policy, that was included as part of that supplemental submission as well. Lastly, I just wanted to point out that your lemon bars were the best lemon bars I've ever tasted in my life. I have 25 seconds left, so I felt like I needed to give you that compliment.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time, and of course, I'm available if there's any questions regarding anything regarding the law and the charter petition. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe the next one is Aaron Thornsberry.
Good evening, President Cruz, members of the board, Superintendent Gillian. I wanted to just talk about tonight just a couple of address some of the concerns that were in the letter to you from the superintendent. Ms. Younger is passing out just multi-year projection narratives that address most of the points that were brought up by Mr. Landsberger in the letter. But I'm not, we have a limited time tonight, so I'm not going to go over all of that. What I just want to assure you is that Gateway Community Charters has 6 successful charter programs in the Sacramento area. It has a very strong balance sheet and is able to support this school if some of the assumptions happen to be incorrect or if there's some concerns over the assumptions. GCC had over $30 million of cash at the end of the last fiscal year. And unrestricted net assets of about $28 million. Liabilities were only $2 million. This cash balance and reserve is able to provide nearly a year worth of operating expenses for all of Gateway Community Charters, 4,000 students. We've had no audit findings in the last 11 years, no reportable audit findings in the audit reports. I also want to address the facilities concern. We have recently entered into a lease with a major real estate development in the Southport neighborhood. Plans have been approved by the city. We have been working with Randy Goodwin at the City of West Sacramento, and we are in the early stages of leasehold improvements. Demolition has already begun, and this facility is planned to be ready by March of this year. Special education was also a concern, and I just wanted to clarify what our intention is with special education. Our proposal is to receive special ed services from Washington Unified, like most other charter schools in the district and in California. Washington Unified would receive all special education revenues. We would be a school within Washington Unified for purposes of the SELPA, and would pay our fair share of contribution from unrestricted funds into the special education program. So I hope this addresses some of the concerns that are in this letter, and I think that with this, we very much EPIC will succeed as a charter school. And thank you for your time, and I hope you vote yes to approve this charter. Thank you.
Thank you. I now have Vika Kozin and Vlad Yankov.
Hello, my name is Vika Kozin, and I am a 5th grader. I am excited to attend EPIC School because I'm looking forward to being a learner who can find the answers to problems myself. I know that everybody is knowledgeable in their own way, and I feel that EPIC will respect and help us all learn in our own unique way.
Hi, my name is Vlad, and I am also a 5th grader who wants to attend EPIC next year. I like the idea of the school because kids reflect on their own learning themselves and are not told by teachers what to think or how to feel. I also look forward to having my teachers spending more time with me on things I want to learn about.
The opportunities that EPIC will provide for me, my family, and friends is so exciting. This school will help us prepare for our future in high school and college diplomas. I'm thrilled to have teachers that will help me understand what I'm curious about and will ensure I get it before moving on.
I like that we will be allowed to think for ourselves and teachers will just be there to help us along the way. I can't wait to be a reflective and open-minded learner at my new school.
Please say yes to us, our families and friends, and vote yes for EPIC tonight.
In the spirit of wonderful holiday season, we have a gift for each board member and the superintendent.
We would like to give you some snowmen our friends made for you.
Next, I have Christina Stipin.
Good evening. My name is Christina Stipin. I have been living in West Sacramento for 8 years. I have 3 sons, and all of my boys are attending school in West Sacramento. I'm always involved in education of my children. I was a member of ELAC and as a chairperson of DLAC. Tonight, I represent the parents of EPIC, and we, the parents, want to express our excitement for an internationally focused school in West Sacramento. We believe that EPIC will enrich community of the children for years to come. Also, we think that required foreign language, PE, art classes, music options will give our children the priceless experience that will help them to develop not only language and math skills, but also imagination and feeling expressions. Also, since I'm very interested in American education, I became a student at Sacramento City College, majoring in child development, and someday I hope to work at school like EPIC. Also, I want you to know that we have 15 parents, students, and community members who wish to talk to you this night, but to respect your time, I'm here to represent them. So if you're here to support EPIC, please stand up. Thank you so much. Please vote for EPIC.
Thank you. Steve Savage.
Thank you very much, President Cruz, members of the board, Superintendent Gilliland, and members of the cabinet, and all the wonderful and enthusiastic parents who've come here tonight. My name is Steve Savage. I work for the California Teachers Association. The first thing I want to do is thank the new and returning board members for stepping up for public education and doing what we all do together to improve education for every single student. Thank you all. I'm very excited to see all this enthusiasm for education from the parents. It's a wonderful thing. I speak in opposition to the charter for a couple of reasons. The first is that when you take a group of students from any culture or language primarily and remove them from the population of all of the other students, you deprive not only the students left in our public schools, but also those students the experience of working with a diverse population and understanding and working with people from all different cultures and all different socioeconomic strata, and it diminishes the education of both groups. And I always work to improve the diversity and learn to work together in the best possible way. And that's the education I really hope every one of our students gets. Secondly, I really believe that the local control funding formula that has changed the nature of school funding and required groups to come together to suggest the kinds of programs that would best benefit our students, their children, gives an unprecedented opportunity for committed parents, like the parents in this room, to come forward as advocates for their students, for language learners, for the kinds of programs that would really work. And I believe that this format has now changed the way that we can work in public schools, that the local control funding formula requires the input of all these groups to create the programs that will best work in our public schools with the fabulous teachers here in Washington Unified to make it work for every single student. And I really believe that the public schools are strengthened when we have that kind of diversity. All right? Thank you very much.
Thanks. Next, I have Michael Lockteff.
Here we are again. For someone as old as I am to come on a night like this, and I may fall asleep, but I didn't today because of the exciting agenda, because there's new people on the board, some old friends and some new friends. Up here, of course, in support of the school. I've lived here some 65 years. I taught school, and I wish I could respond to some of the things the previous speaker said, but let me just read a letter first from one of the organizations, local. I represent actually two organizations today. One is Brighton Broader Community Action Network. As a former president of that organization, I'm reading their letter of support. Brighton Broader Community Action Network would like to provide this letter to the Washington Unified School District. We are demonstrating our support to Gateway Community Charters toward establishing empowering possibilities international charter school. Part of BBCAN mission is to support schools and opportunity collaborations. We've heard so much about collaborations here. I think it's great. I'm familiar with the Land-Based Institute, been there a few times, and it was great to hear that presentation. BBCAN operates on a basis of empowering individuals to become involved in their community, identify need, and provide assistance in opening doors to possible solutions. We believe in the value of diversified educational opportunities for all students. BBCAN hopes the Washington Unified School District will see EPIC as an opportunity to provide West Sacramento an additional learning environment to students to excel while meeting the need of the cultural diversity, which is the makeup of our community. In addition, we understand service learning, I want to kind of underline that, instruction to students is of much real world value, benefiting the individual students' growth and development, as well as positive impact on our community. We hope the Washington Unified School District will thoughtfully consider to accept for EPIC into our district. And I don't have a letter to read, but I'll just say Sergei Shkurkin was here to publicly speak in support of this. We've had some projects of community service. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Don Stauffer.
Good evening. I'd like to express some of the concerns I have about the charter application. I think it's important that we be honest about this charter application, that although we've heard of some very impressive and, in fact, very exciting talk about the educational program the charter would offer, that's not why they're here tonight. They're here to offer a program for primarily Russian immigrants who wish to keep their children in school environment that is more tightly controlled and free of influences of Western secular education. I know with the experience of the Community Outreach Academy, which is part of Gateway, and it is true that it's one of the most segregated schools in the state, if not the country, and I have no reason to suspect that it will be any different for this charter in West Sacramento. If they do make a big push to diversify their population, that means they will be poaching kids from our schools. And I mean, certainly the educational program looks good. If it's that good and the people are that interested in that, in a program that leads to IB, then perhaps it's something that Washington Unified should consider adding. The other concern I have is it's more of just an impression about the way the district operates, and that has to do with the finances. Although the Gateway is very generous in giving me financial documents, and I do appreciate that. One thing that stood out is that their CEO, which I assume is the equivalent of our superintendent, makes more money than our superintendent, yet their school population is about half that of ours. And that just brings up a little concern in my mind about what the priority is with the charter and how it operates. Thank you, Mr. Thornsberry, for talking about special education. That was one of my questions too, and I think he answered that adequately. So thank you.
Thank you. And at this time, is there any board comments, questions? Ms. Villegas? I'll hear the rest of the board members first. Anyone want to go first?
I'll go first. I have some questions. Your current board members, I don't know if any of you are here, Mr. Mayor Gritch, Lily Campbell, Mr. Turner, Mr. Anderson, or Mr. Block. Can you tell me what city that you live in?
What city I live in? I live in Lincoln.
Okay. Okay. Do you have any board members that live in West Sacramento? Okay. When I poured over also your documentation of who were the development and implementation team, you had lots of folks who work with the Gateway Charter, lots of you all who were helping to develop that. One name stood out to me, and so I called her. Dr. Virginia Dixon was another person who's outside of your charter group, and she worked with you on EPIC. Her name is listed as a EPIC development and implementation team that she helped with.
Yes, Dr. Virginia Dixon serves as a member of our Community Business Advisory Council, and the members of the Community Business Advisory Council all have input. She was very instrumental when we first started even talking about IB as a pedagogy within the Art and Arcade community and West Sacramento. She was involved.
Can I read a quote from her? Okay. When I asked her about her involvement with West Sacramento, I do not know the particulars of the West Sacramento proposal, nor do I know the staff there. It's a quote from her this Wednesday.
I do believe if you did refer to in terms of Gateway Community Charters, as I said, she is definitely a member of our Community Business Advisory Council. We did talk to her about the fact that we do have a petition here in West Sacramento.
Okay, but maybe she didn't help develop it?
I would say yes, she definitely could, and I also know that Mrs. Joy Takoy, who is in the room, who was a member of the original West Sac team as principal, also had discussions myself and others with Dr. Dixon.
Okay. Joy's not mentioned on here as a key individual, but I assume then she was. Okay. And then another question would be, when I looked over your board meetings, of which you have canceled about half of them, I think you've had 13 out of 22 on schedule. You still meet your requirement of once a month, which you set in your proposal, but you've had 13 out of 22. I looked up the dates that you gave me when you talked about this proposal. Since submitting your proposal, there were in the minutes, but prior to that, they were not. It said things like working on the goals, and when I clicked on that, it didn't give any information as to the West Sacramento group, or that there had been any conversations there.
Yes, I will share with you. I mean, much like any school district, we use Agenda Online, very similar to what Washington Unified uses. And oftentimes we have information that says strategic planning. Since 2011, the West Sacramento IB program has been part of our ongoing strategic planning conversations that the board has had on a constant basis. And when I say we talk about strategic planning, we talk about a number of things. So what you'll see is in our board agendas, EPIC shows up once the board approved the submission of EPIC, and then we have continued to keep the board updated. Up to that point, they've talked about an IB program in West Sacramento in our strategic planning. And if you look at our agenda, it pretty clearly says strategic planning. I think in some instances, it may even say long-range planning or long-term planning.
You're a former board member, aren't you, yourself?
Yes, I am.
Yes. So, yes, long-term planning, but then no additional information, which clearly would be helpful. Sally, so I asked where you were from, board members, because according to Sally Ridge at the CDE in the Charter School Division, you need to have representation on the board from every single school that is under your umbrella, according to, again, Sandy Ridge, my conversation with her. You also, according to Sandy Ridge at the CDE, need to have on your agendas, you need to have time for the school sites that you serve. And when I look at your agendas, I printed off many. I did not see that there was time given to to a majority of your schools broken down that way.
It is absolutely incorrect that the law requires a representation on your board from each area in which you serve. That is not correct at all. The law requires that you describe your governance structure in your charter, which they did. However, the law also requires that every authorizer have the opportunity to provide a representative to the board, and the charter does provide for that, and you will be given that opportunity as well if you authorize the charter. And that is what is required. Maybe that's what the Department of Ed was referring to, but that is not required by law. Now, that's something that the charter petitioners can also discuss as they go into different areas, expanding their board as needed to make sure that they have representation in each area. So if this charter is in fact approved, that may be something that they may consider. That's definitely not something that is required by law.
And we could certainly, on an MOU, request that we have somebody from the authorizing board on the board there. But
you
that again is
can. It is required by law. So,
and we have that on our other charter that we have approved. Dayton is our representation for that board. All the other board members live out of our city and district. When they came on the board, some have since moved into, I think, West Sac, but on that board, they all lived outside of West Sacramento.
And it is a little different, being that this is an umbrella charter outside of the group with a place in versus the charters which are here now, which were cultivated internally. So it is a little different. I do have more questions, but I'll open it to my fellow board members if they have any now.
Any questions? Comment?
I don't really have any questions. I think we've been given, follow-ups and additional information. When I first read it, I did, but I see that you submitted quite a bit of additional documents and documentation. I did hear the comment about 5 years versus 3 years. The racial and ethnic balance, I think, is important. Again, target to look at in the students with disabilities. And so those 3 areas, I would tend to approve the charter, but would like to see conditions. Probably not going to ask for that, but I'd like particular attention paid to those areas. Those are 3 things that are just on my mind.
I also read the entire proposal, newest board member here, but I do believe modifications have to be made, and I'm very open in the future to seeing those modifications.
Is it okay to ask the location in Southport? Is that public yet, or is that? Not yet. Okay. And I share Mary's concerns. If we approve this, I would like to see it more like a 3-year than a 5-year. I don't think we've done any charters at a 5-year. Diversity is an issue for me, and I'd just like to see that changed if we could.
I would, once again, just like to thank our staff for their time and attention into the details in these petitions, because I know they're voluminous and a lot of research is done for us. I'd also like to thank the community, as Mr. Savage said, for the members of being so passionate about education. We're all here for the same reason. And I'd also like to clear up some thoughts of community members and officials and others in our community. Speaking for the board, I think I can say and believe that there's not one of us that are either pro-charter or anti-charter, and we all review the various petitions that are put in front of us on a case-by-case basis. So to say that I do not approve charter schools would be incorrect. And in fact, I personally was one of the board members that recently reapproved 2 charters that we have here in the school, in our school district. And I felt they had great success in the past, and I believe they'll have great success in the future. I do have some concerns as board member Kirby Gonzalez. I also really appreciated Mr. Savage's comments and agree that our community is very diversified, and taking them from some of our, and not having all of them in schools together, it hurts both of the kids in the public schools that are not privileged to things that other races, nationalities that they go towards. And so I also appreciate Scott's comments on financials. I know we received supplemental documents late after the hearing. So I do have concerns, as some of my other board members, and with that, if there's no more comments, sure.
Jason Sample, Mr. Sample, sorry, I forgot your last name. So you said that the B article is not representational of your group. When you look up the school accountability report card, you cannot see the demographics just for West Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if you can tell me, I know your principal's here, what is the demographics of the Community Collaborative Charter School only on the West Sacramento campus?
You know, I would actually have to probably do a little more deeper research on that. I don't know if our principals have any data on that. Okay, she's shaking her head no, but that is definitely something I can get for you.
I find that surprising that you don't have that data. Okay, and
again, I when I say that, it's, you know, just giving you exact numbers because we want to be reflective of what it is.
Okay, do you have a ballpark?
I don't.
And then our question was, it was brought up earlier, your superintendent does make certainly more than our highest paid employee, our superintendent. When I looked up a base salary of a teacher, I know you do have, you pay with extra compensation. You have some, if kids are showing up on time and some other caveats, they do get a few $1,000s more. But when I looked at, say, base salary of a 5th-year teacher, it might, for your school, let's see, it was about $48,299. A school here in West Sacramento, $50,341. And so just to be clear and to reiterate that your superintendent makes more than ours, though our district is pretty much double in size, and your teachers make less, and I'm wondering why that is.
You know, that's something I would actually ask our CBO to answer, because again, I think he can really hone in a little bit better on those numbers that you're looking at.
I don't know what your superintendent's salary is, but I just want to make sure it's clear that the Form 990 that information is being taken off of includes all benefits per, STRS, health benefits, any additional things like that. So I don't know how you're comparing. I just want to make sure that's clear. Okay, thank you.
Anything further?
Then from my standpoint, unless there's other questions, I'd like to reiterate that I do have concerns with the demographics. I have concerns with the structure of an outside organization. And I do wonder also, just quickly as a caveat that I meant to ask, your current collaborative charter has an MOU that is not due yet. It's not due for quite a while. Would your school that you have existing, would you consider that to continue going? Because your MOU is through June 2018.
Really being reflective of the desire of our parents, wanting an IB school. The current community collaborative charter program that you're referring to is not IB. It is non-classroom based. And so we really have kind of made it a track record to be reflective to the needs of our parents in the community who come to us.
So no, it would not. If the EPIC moves forward, that you would not continue with your MOU?
I definitely think that would be a discussion that the board would need to have, and that would be really in their wheelhouse.
Okay, thank you. Then I would like to just reiterate up here with my colleagues that this is about $3 million to start up. It's a huge amount of money, obviously, and we are an authorizing board. Of course, it's in your hands once you're running it, but we are still accountable up here with whatever we do. And my biggest concerns, which was reiterated up here, 5-year plan is not what we have done here. And adding to the MOU, certainly that we would have somebody from the authorizing board. I think it's very concerning to me that it does not represent West Sacramento in terms of anyone in your group that I'm seeing, Michael, of course, that he's not on your board or a piece there, and that you even have people who don't realize who are on this petition what's happening, they seem to tell me. And I would also love if it came back. First, I would just love to work with all the parents. We want an IB program. It's in our LCAP, and we would love to work with you to do that. But if we're not going to work together and you want to go this other route, I would be open if something came back to us that was a local charter versus the direct. Local funds, as you know, come in through the district. We allocate funds. So you could have a charter that was working more closely together. And you talked about in the spirit of collaboration, which is what we want to do. We want to be collaborative. We want to work together. So if something came back with 3 years, if something came back where we put that we had board representation, and if something came back that was local, where we were working a little more closely together, I would be happy to approve that, but I'm not going to in the current state.
Can I point out that the law actually allows you to have a board representative? It's not something that is something that we can control as a charter. It's actually your allowance, and so that is absolutely your allowance. Also, the law allows you to set the term for the charter. We don't set the term for the charter. So while we, of course, would ask for the maximum 5 years, it is completely up to your discretion to allow for a shorter term. So a 3 or 4 or 5 year charter, that is totally up to your discretion. And so our request for 5 years doesn't prevent you from granting the charter for a 3-year term. Also, I wanted to point out that some of the concerns that were raised tonight, well, certainly discussions that can be had and remedied through the Memorandum of Understanding process are not bases for denial of the charter, and I think that's representative of your superintendent's recommendation for approval. The long track record of Gateway Community Charters is reflective of their ability to work with their authorizers collaborative and within each one of their communities, and they've had success in doing so. And I know that this organization would reach out and love the opportunity to collaborate with you and work on resolving any concerns that you have in the MOU process. Thank you.
I just want to kind of follow up. We're having a discussion up here that, again, I hear what Board Member Kirby Gonzalez, what you're saying about the local kind of control or locally based charter, but I don't believe that that's not something that we could put in a written factual finding. It's not part of the findings, and so we have to be careful that we're following the law too. And if the findings are there, which to me they look like they're there, I would like to tweak the 5 to 3 years. Sounds like you're open to that. You're open to having, the law says we could have representation on the charter. I think most of the parents or folks in the room that stood up are from West Sacramento, so I'm not too concerned about local support for this charter. But again, from a board member responsibility, I think that if we can't find anything against the 5 findings in a factual way, that it's our obligation to vote for this charter. And I, again, would like to do that, but I would like a certain amount of the language changed with the term, and again, follow through on the local board representation that the law requires. And that's my comments.
Any more comments? Questions? All those in favor of the EPIC charter?
We have to.
Was that a motion?
Have we done a motion?
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm waiting for a motion. Sorry. Are there any motions to approve the EPIC charter?
I'll make a motion to approve Empowering Possibilities International Charter, EPIC, board to grant or deny petition.
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say no.
No.
We are going on to action item number 5.
Excuse me, President Cruz, I'm sorry, that was in unison. It was difficult to discern the noes and the yeses. I need some clarification.
I'm sorry, that was no by Ms. Board Member Kirby Gonzalez. That is no for Alicia Cruz. That is no for Board Member Norma Acala. And it was yes for Ms. Villegas and yes for Ms. Leland.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further on that?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. The action item number 5, to approve the first interim financial report of fiscal year 2014-15.
Good evening. I'll be as brief as I can in this presentation. It's about 15 slides long. Some of it is repetitive, but some of it is going to be new for Board Member Alcala, so I want to make sure a couple of points are made. Document that you received for the first interim report is some 138 pages long. After the document was posted, I did note one error that I'd like to point out to the board. It's in the very beginning of the document. It's in the narrative on page number 4, and it is right above chart number 2, where it talks about entitlement, and the opening statement is for fiscal 13-14. The LCFF entitlement is actually supposed to say for 14-15. So as far as first interim report, again, more for your edification, Board Member Alcala, is we have a budget cycle that typically runs for about 22 months. Budget development starts in February, goes through the entire year, and then you have an audit that follows through. So you have 4 complete fiscal reportings plus an audit. Currently, we're in that cycle working the first interim report for the 14-15 school year, which is due by December 15th, and then the audit report for the prior school year, which you saw earlier for 13-14. So that is where we are in the cycle, and we currently are working in 3 fiscal years. You just saw the audit report to finish out 13-14, first interim report for 14-15, and we've already started budget development for 15-16. Really quick, positive budget certification is what we always strive for, and this is just a slide that gives you the definition of the 3 different certifications you can have with a budget: positive, qualified, or negative, and we are requesting a positive certification as the district in the interim report is able to meet its current obligations plus 2 subsequent fiscal years. Major adjustments in the first interim report from budget are that we included the LCAP funded growth positions that were approved by the board via the LCAP. The local control funding formula has been updated based on the newest version of the model, which is version 15.3A, which was released on November 3rd. It includes a one-time mandate reimbursement of $476,489. I'll discuss that in a couple of slides. Fund 40, which you opened a couple months ago, has been fully funded with the ERP money from the state to the tune of just a little under $4.2 million. And the multi-year projection is based on conservative budgeting practices, which we have been running for several years now. Local control funding formula target for this cycle is $67.666 million. Again, it is on the newest version of the LCFF model, and this is the target for 8 years of funding. We are in year 2 of an 8-year cycle. The LCFF targets is a component. I think this is just a really good graphic. Before, we used to have about a 2/3 amount of money that came in unrestricted, and then we had restricted money in some other pots. And right now, with the local control funding formula, 80% of our revenue is coming out of the local control funding formula versus federal aid and other state aid and property taxes. Oops. So the 45-day revise versus first interim. When we came to the 45-day revise, we had an entitlement of $53.7 million. That entitlement has gone down just a little bit. It went down to $53.6 million. And the reason is noted on the bottom right of the slide. The unduplicated pupil count for the first interim report is a 2-year average of 68.8%. At the time that we brought you the 45-day revise, we only had a 1-year average since we hadn't hit seabeds yet. And that was at 69.33%. So, or excuse me, 69.53%. You average the current year with the prior year, we end up with 68.8%. That is why our entitlement dropped about $85,000 roughly. Just a quick reminder that in the local control funding formula, we have absorbed a lot of responsibilities, even though we don't have additional money that is identified specifically for it. We are still responsible for the Williams Act and to have LCFF funds to meet the requirements of the Williams Act, which is Safe, Clean Schools. Also doing our assignment monitoring and making sure that our students have textbooks. Deferred maintenance is no longer funded by the state. It is funded through the local control funding formula. We have been, through our fund balance, adding about $250,000 per year to deferred maintenance, and you see it in the designation of ending fund balance every time we bring you a report. We continue to leave that money there versus moving it to a facility fund because it remains flexible for the board in case they need to make an adaptation in the budget at a future point. And the one thing that we will have to address for 15-16 that we have talked about a little bit in the past is the routine restricted maintenance reserve, which has been 3%, was suspended down to 1% when we went through flexibility. We're at a little over 2% funding it currently, and for budget development for 15-16, the flexibility is gone, and the RRM contribution has to be 3%. The projected ending fund balance for this interim report for 14-15 has $10.6 million on the unrestricted side, $163,000 on the restricted side, and you see a new commitment line for $476,489. That is your one-time mandate reimbursement that we received this year. If you recall, when the state noted that they were going to provide this one-time mandate payment, at first they came out and said you had to use it for Common Core. Quickly retracted because it can't tell you what to spend money on when they're reimbursing you for expense from before, but highly recommended that you use the money for that purpose, which basically tells us we will not be receiving any more Common Core funding. So we've recommending that you put this in a commitment for Common Core. You have the right to change that commitment at any point in time, but having a commitment of it allows you to push this money into a future fiscal year. You still have Common Core implementation money that has to be spent by June 30th, 2015. This money then can go into a subsequent year or two, depending on a plan that gets developed by Bill and the Ed Services team. multi-year projection in the local control funding formula model for 15-16 has a funding gap percentage of 20.68%. 16-17, 25%. That equates to ongoing funding increases of roughly 6% versus what you are currently receiving in the interim report for this year. And the funding gap dollar amounts, you're going to see a little bit of slowdown. If you look at those funding percentages, they're dropping off a little bit, and the total dollar amounts received on a district-by-district basis are starting to slow because they start catching up the funding gaps. You're not going to continue to see significant revenue increases in the out years because the funding gap is smaller. The multi-year projection that the district has for 14-15 follows some of the protocols that we've used in years past. We are actually going to suggest your multi-year projection is funded an increase of 3.3 and 3% of the LCFF entitlement for future years in the LCFF calculation. We've done this in the past, and we think it's the conservative way to go. It's kind of a middle of the road. Before, we used to give you the worst case scenario in your multi-year projections. So now we're kind of going to the middle of the road because the economy has turned around, but there's still reason for some concerns with some things that happen in the state economy, and you have some additional costs that you're going to be faced with in the next couple of years. Note that the expenditure assumptions that you see in front of you in this multi-year projection do not include any salary enhancements. We will update at second interim when we have the governor's budget. We'll look at those local control funding dollars for future years, and if the governor's budget is projecting what the Department of Finance has, we'll make adjustments to those numbers as we have in years past. It is a positive multi-year projection. It is fiscally solvent. It shows that you have funding that covers your expenses for the current year and the next 2 years. It pays down, or excuse me, it spends your restricted dollars first versus your unrestricted dollars. So this is a very balanced budget. This is a budget that we have been working to be able to bring to you at this time in the budget cycle for years. I recall when I first started working here, the second interim report, the future years, we were having to do additional cuts and everything to try and balance the budget. So very nice to be able to bring you a budget that is much more balanced than we have in years past. A couple new things that we're going to end up talking about over the next 6 months. The first one is Senate Bill 858, which has an excess reserve requirement, a declaration that the board will have to make when they approve their budget for 15-16 that basically says what the minimum economic uncertainty reserve is for the district, the combined assigned and unassigned amounts that are in the ending fund balance, and if they're over the economic uncertainty reserve for the district, why. We'll walk you through that process and the things that the board is going to have to do. Remember, you currently have a fund balance reserve of 6.5%. So we'll show you how that interacts with this excess reserve statement that we're going to have to make as we go through budget development. The other new thing is Proposition 2, the Public School System Stabilization Account. I cannot say that 3 times fast because I can barely say it 1 time fast. This is the rainy day fund. So this was the byproduct of Proposition 2, which was approved by the voters in November, and really has 4 components to it that would have to occur before it would go into effect. And the first thing that has to happen is there has to be absolutely no maintenance factors to schools at all. And in the 13-14 year, we started with a $6.6 billion maintenance factor. That had to be completely paid down. Capital gains tax would have to be greater than 8%. And Proposition 98 would have to be a test 1 year and could not be suspended. So those 4 things would have to happen. Then the state would have to make a deposit into the PSSA. And the following fiscal year, you'd have to start spending down your reserves. Looking at the way that this bill is currently drafted and the historical components of those 4 pieces, we don't see this happening within the next few years, but it could happen in a future year. In addition, we are also hearing that there's a dialogue about making some amendments to how this bill gets implemented or how this proposition gets implemented and the impact it's going to have on reserves. So at this point, we're going to hold pat with our recommendation to the board as far as how you handle your reserves. And as this picture becomes clear, we'll bring that information back to you and make recommendations for the board at that time. What the reserve cap is on this is for our district, it would be double what the economic uncertainty reserve is, minimum of 3%. So it would be double, which is 6%, which is about in line with what your fund balance reserve is right now. So the next steps for us is to evaluate the governor's budget proposal that is due in a few weeks beginning in January. We'll update second interim report and the impact of the governor's budget proposal when we bring you the second interim report. We'll continue to monitor attendance. The preliminary update of attendance will come at the second interim report. We've seen some growth. But as in years past, we're going to wait till we see our P2 number and actually can rely on that revenue before we start putting it into our revenue streams. We'll monitor progress on the PSSSA, and then we'll continue a joint review of the local control accountability plan with Assistant Superintendent Spaulding and his team, and any adjustments that we're going to need to make in the budget to support the LCAP. Questions and answers?
Any questions?
I'm just going to say, based on your report, when I go to the workshop this Sunday, Monday, I'm going to look up SB 858 and Proposition 2 and learn a little bit more about it. That was a lot all at once about those two things, and I kind of need to have it soak in a little more.
Okay.
Good job otherwise, but I'm going
Thank
to
you.
go zero in on those two things in a workshop.
Okay.
Anyone else? Comments, questions?
Thanks, Scott. An excellent job.
Thank you.
Thank you, and I agree with Mary. Hopefully, we can educate ourselves a little bit more this weekend on that.
Yeah, from a fiscal perspective, those are, I think, the two things that are really going to be issues for school boards is the SB 858 and Proposition 2 and how that is implemented and how we work through that process.
I do need a motion to approve the first interim financial report for fiscal year 2014 to 2015.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Item number 6, to approve the first interim 2014-15 budget transfers. I do need to get another motion before we continue because we are at the 10 o'clock hour. So can we get a motion to continue on?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
I have lots of cough drops left.
No, poor Sarah's
Okay.
dying over here.
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome. You ready for number 6?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so Kylie would normally do this, but with the weather, she said, do you need me at the board meeting tonight? I said, no, go be at home with your kids. So item number 6 is, since you approved the second interim report, all those budget transfers and adjustments that happened in between budget development and the first interim report, she now needs you to approve those budget transfers so she can make a transmittal to the County Office of Education to actually update our budget in the system. One of the controls that we have is the school district can't update those budget transfers by itself. It has to have authorization from our fiscal agent. So I just need approval of the budget transfers that made up the second interim report, please.
Do we have any comments or do we have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Item number 7, to adopt resolution number 1415-12, accepting the results of the November 4th, 2014 general obligation bond election.
I'd like to speak to this just briefly. I'm pleased to report that we, in fact, did receive the certification. You'll recall from my weekly update, my update just last Friday, we did not yet receive it. And the deadline for the county is actually tomorrow, so we weren't sure. So I was hedging my bet a bit on whether or not we could take this action tonight. I'm pleased to report that we have the certification. It came in even higher than we anticipated. We had an overwhelming show of support from our community for Measure V of 67.4%. Remarkable. And it's just, it is just a great sign of things to come, I think. And we're so appreciative to our community for approving this bond measure. In regard to this, I also provided a timeline of events that are upcoming because the clock moves pretty quickly on getting our oversight committee assembled and moving forward with moving forward on the bonds and the actual work so that we can get things going immediately. You have in front of you a copy of a draft application for the oversight committee. I'd like to get this out this week. We want to get a letterhead on here, and it identifies the specific areas that we need to address. I'm suggesting down below that we request that these be submitted by January 12th, which is a Monday. That would allow me maybe a week to get out there and find folks that would be willing to commit to areas that are maybe not covered. And then we'd bring back to the board the following Thursday, which would be the, I think it's the night, I want to say 22nd perhaps. Anyway, that Thursday the following week, We would present to you a recommendation for the Oversight Committee. We would invite those folks to come forward, of course. We'd have a reception and celebration again, because we will be sending invitations out to the people that served on the community input team. We've offered that, and we want to make sure we reach out to that group. But I also want you to know as board members that this will be posted on our website, and as you're having conversations with friends and acquaintances in the community and you want to encourage them, you can direct them to the website to secure an application. So we'll report back on what's coming in, what we appear to be needing to address, but this will give about a month window to get the applications in and take next steps. So excited about that. Wanted to bring that to you for consideration. If you have any, I think the application is pretty straightforward. It's simple. It covers the basic elements we really need to ascertain. If you have any suggestions, we're open to that, but I would like to move on this quickly. So take some time, but not a lot, and let me know within the next couple of days, okay? With that, happy holidays. Thank you.
Dayton, I just have a quick question. This is a lot of people that may or may not be associated with schools. Do we do an extra effort to get parents and people that are actually in the schools on this committee, or is it?
Well, a parent is represented, also a parent and a school nonprofit, such as a PTA group. So we have a couple of spots. There's a minimum of 7 people that we must include in this committee, but there's really no limit. Okay. So again, in our conversations, once we see a composition of people that are applying, we can have discussion and the board can give me specific direction on who you'd want me to reach out to or what types of groups you may want to, supplement the group with, if you will.
There's no documented standard that we have to stick to. These certain people need to be on it.
No, that's what's listed on this application form, if you see.
Okay.
You need an active business organization representative. You need a senior citizens rep.
You can have more. Okay.
But that's the minimum. You can go beyond that.
Okay.
In other conversations I've had, I think we want to make sure it's still kind of operational, if you will. You don't want to go to a committee of 50.
Yeah, no.
You really want a working group. So I would suggest, just kind of off the top of my head, maybe 12, 15 as a maximum, but certainly not limiting to the 7 minimum.
Do we want to put a maximum on here, or do we?
I would suggest at this point, since you don't necessarily need to, you first see who comes in, because if I'm thinking just off the top of my head 15 and we have 16, who and why would you turn someone away, So let's see what comes in over the course of the next month. We'll have a chance to talk about it at the first meeting in January before we make the final decision at the next meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
So just quickly on this, they write their name and how their affiliation. Am I missing something? Is there any other piece of this, or they give this to you and then does something else happen? Are they asked?
Is there an application?
Not that there needs to be anything intense, but what if multiple people apply for the same thing? All we have is their name. I'm just wondering what the process is, or if they're asked why you'd like to be on this, or if there's maybe a follow-up question.
Resumes.
So we could defer if there's multiple people for the same piece. I guess
I don't want to make it sound like I'm making it up as I go, but the first step is really contingent upon the level of interest we garner, because we have certain categories we need to address. And honestly, I'm not sure at this point how many people are going to want to commit to this. It's a 2-year term. And hopefully there'll be a number of applicants, but I don't want to get too far down the road in the logistics until we are dealing with the applications that come in.
Okay. Luckily, I've heard many people. So thank you, community.
Good. Thank you.
Any more comments, questions? We do need do a motion to adopt the resolution, number 1415-12, accepting the results of the November 4th, 2014 general obligation bond election.
So moved.
Second.
And this is roll call vote. This is resolution, is that correct? Miss Norma Akala?
Yes.
Miss Mary Lehman?
Yes.
Miss Katie Villegas?
Yes.
Miss Sarah Kirby Gonzalez?
Yes.
And I too vote yes.
Yes for the woohoo.
Thank you. And we're up to consent items.
Can I make a motion to pull consent item 13, adopt the AB 1565 pre-qualification questionnaire and rating system, just to have a quick discussion? I know it's getting late.
Your voice.
It'll be quick. My question is, we had a community member reach out, as you know, who reached out discussing if we did adopt that resolution 1314-10, and if that needs to be included in this questionnaire as a requirement, and maybe we could approve that with with this questionnaire there? It's my question, or why we wouldn't, or maybe you can speak to that.
I tried to express, I think I sent an email out midday today addressing this, and really this is a pre-qualification process. As we went through with the selection of 3 architects of choice, if you recall, we have opportunity to work directly with those groups for the work that we do. In a pre-qual process, this would not circumvent the actual MOU and the agreement we have with the labor trades. That would still apply to any selection of a final contract in awarding a bid. So they're not mutually exclusive. It's just a different phase, in my interpretation, in the same process, if you will, to get to the actual work. So that's kind of how I understand it. I'd like Scott maybe to either validate what I'm saying and add any further clarity. Thanks.
And Superintendent Gillen's absolutely correct. The pre-qualification questionnaire is looking more not to identify whether or not a contractor is going to abide by the district's particular contracting mechanism, but the particular section that was brought to your attention, which is prevailing wage and apprenticeship compliance record, the questionnaire is looking at whether or not the contractor that is wanting to do business with the district has ever violated a prevailing wage or an apprenticeship program. And if they violated that, they're going to get negative points in the rating system. The fact that we have a particular contracting mechanism, we don't want to put in here and weigh points whether someone's going to tell us yes, they would abide by that or not, because the answer is always going to be yes. And you're always going to give them points. And so it skews the ratio of points that you're trying to give somebody when you're trying to validate whether or not it's a contractor that meets the qualifications that you have in this questionnaire. So they are different pieces. It is a contracting mechanism as far as the apprenticeship agreement that we made with Resolution 131410. It is not outside of the parameters of I believe it is Government Code 1777.5, which requires us to have apprenticeship programs, and we have them in all of our contracts regardless. So they are really 2 different things, and what we're trying to get in this questionnaire is whether or not someone has violated those types of programs in the past versus making that part of a contract when they actually want to perform work for the district when they bid. It'll be in the contract with bid documents.
Okay. And then I just have one other question. It talks about, mentions C licensed contractors, and there's no mention of A and B licensed contractors, unless I'm missing that.
Can you direct me to which page you're looking at, please?
I'm looking at my notes.
Okay. Let me find. There's the contractor license requirements of the questionnaire are directly from the Department of Industrial Relations requirements for this questionnaire. The law that requires school districts to have this pre-qualification process is coming from the DIR, and they have a template that says you must have at least this information that they have in there. And it is, we took those contractor requirements and license requirements straight from the DIR requirements.
Okay.
These are for general contractors, mechanical, plumbing, and electrical subcontractors. That's all you're pre-qualifying for. You're not pre-qualifying painters or any other types of subcontractors. It's just a general and those 3 MPE pieces.
Thank you. And I appreciate the time to my colleagues, too.
Any more questions, concerns? We're ready to accept a motion to approve the consent items.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Do we want to discuss any future board agenda items?
Excuse me, President Cruz, since you pulled the item for discussion, you'll need to vote on that separately or
Okay.
include that in the vote of the consent.
Thank you. Do I, individual voting? On item number 13, to adopt the AB 1565 pre-qualification questionnaire and rating system. Your vote, Ms. Alcala?
Approve.
Ms. Leland?
Approve.
Ms. Villegas?
Approved.
Ms. Villegas? No, Villegas. I'm sorry, I said it twice. Ms. Kirby Gonzalez?
Approved. Thank you.
I too approve it. Okay, is there any future board agenda items?
I've been seeing out in the neighborhood signs for Lighthouse Charter, and I know it is coming back to us, but I would like to see that on our agendas. Even if it's listed down below as future agenda items, I think it's important to remind the public that that is coming back to us.
Anything else? We do have some closed session items we need to continue on. I thank the public. We're going to be there for a while. You're more than welcome to stay, but otherwise, have a nice holiday.